Thank you for coming and welcome back to another episode of Can of Worms. This is Nick and I'm here with Chris today to talk about Battlefield's beta. How's it going, Chris?
Mhm. Oh, it's going better than the Battlefield beta.
Yeah, that's good to hear because man, that was I didn't play a ton of it. I played maybe 40 minutes worth and
Mhm.
man, that was a hot buggy mess, but you played it a bit more than I did.
Yeah.
Um what are your impressions of it so far?
Um, so first I'm gonna go ahead and say without the bugs, I mean just looking at the game itself, what it is lacking a little bit. Like I really am looking forward to seeing what they do with the full game on this because there are a lot of really good things. Like for instance, the first thing that I absolutely have to say I love about it is changing your weapon settings on the fly. That was sick. A lot of people went into the game and they're like, "Oh, great, it's going to be like Call of Duty. I got to level up my guns, open up this scope and that scope, and blah blah blah." Well, I don't know if it's just for the beta, but if you wanted to change on the fly, you can go from like a laser, or not a laser, but like a what am I trying to say here? The
like
sight,
like
the
like
red dot sight,
a red dot sight to a
to like a
ACOG.
scope.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you can do all that on the fly really easily, and I like the way that they did it. Um, the only problem on that same coin, the other side of that coin, is they did take away a lot of things from Battlefield. Like for instance, when you're laying prone, you can't you can't do the thing where you're scooting away and you can see your feet and stuff like that. Like a lot of the motion controls have been, I don't want to say dumbed down, but dumbed down.
Okay.
Um, so there is that. A lot of people complained about that, where you're not able to do that now. I mean, it's added a lot of really good stuff. It's taken away some of the good stuff, but overall, I think it is going to be pretty fun. Now, again, like you were talking, the bugs, the absolute shit show of the server that happened. Now, not everybody experienced this. Not sure why, if it's a hardware thing or whatever. My rig is not a potato by any means. When I went to check, can you run it? It was all in the green.
Hmm.
I opened ports up. I made sure that everything was good. However, it's still, if I sat there and said, what did you least like about the last Battlefield game? 9 out of 10 people will be like, this rubber banding.
Hmm.
It's there still in Battlefield. It's now a function feature, not a bug. Battlefield, you have to deal with rubber banding.
It's
That's the
part of
main
their
bad guy.
brand now, right?
Exactly. Like if it's not rubber banding, it's not Battlefield.
Well,
Um,
and I think that's not just the rubber banding, but just like a I guess you can at this point say it's almost like a stamp of their excellence where you kind of expect this kind of quality, and that's not necessarily a good thing that you expected.
right.
Like, I was very negative, in the past when we talked about Battlefield 2042, like I was very negative in my feelings about the game, especially when it came to the state of the game when it would launch. And
Hmm.
one of the things I even said was, I'll make my decision when I have the game in my hands and I can play the beta. And I played the beta for 40 minutes at, it wasn't, I didn't download it myself. It was actually at a friend's, but,
Hmm.
um, we played it and talked about it for a bit. And I was like, not only am I not impressed, I feel like I'm playing a map pack almost for the previous Battlefield because other than the changing of your equipment mid game is kind of nice. It's a cool feature, but
Hmm.
I feel like that doesn't address the fact that the gameplay feels incredibly similar.
Hmm.
Um, and
So,
the bugs that are now, it's almost like Bethesda, right? You expect there to be bugs, you expect the rubber banding, you expect it to have a rocky launch, and it's just like this game is hard proof to me of why I will never buy a Battlefield on launch anymore is because I can't
hmm.
trust it.
Right. Oh no, absolutely. Like I'll admit, I did pre-order this game, full well knowing that. chances are I'm not going to be able to play it for a while. I mean, and that sounds horrible because I am Mr. Anti-hype train. I know. Yell at me in the comments. But but here's the thing about it is, we're expecting it. I want to see what it's like on day one. Whether or not I'm actually going to be able to for a multitude of reasons, that's yet to be seen. However, it is exactly, and I'm predicting this now because just like the beta went exactly as everybody expected. Day one is going to go exactly as everybody expect as well. There's going to be the rubber banding, there's going to be the shitty servers, there's going to be, I shot this guy 5 times in the face, he disappeared and then knifed me. It's gonna have a lot of that, and I'm expecting it, and I'm, preemptively complaining, but I'm doing it to myself, so I really shouldn't be. But yeah, you're spot on with that, where it's like, do you expect it to suck? Yeah. Should you get it day one? Probably not if you're not expecting that or not wanting to deal with it. So yeah, I mean it is Battlefield.
Mhm.
I mean, I'll put it that way. Now, gameplay wise, I did have to make a few tweaks as far as the settings. Like half the time when the servers were good, and I mean like 3 in the morning or 7 in the morning, when you're not in prime time, the servers weren't horrible. They weren't rubber banding as bad. They weren't doing the invisible bullet thing too bad. Um, I did also notice that it felt like I was just trudging through mud, like compare it to a game, its biggest competitor, Call of Duty, even though they're not very similar games, they're shooters. It does feel like you're kind of walking through mud. I
Yeah.
had to increase the sensitivity a lot to really get it to feel like comfortable again. So change the settings definitely is going to be a must. Do not take that game at face value when it comes to the settings, because otherwise you're going to have a bad time. Like, get used to it. Get to where you can tweak that game, and you're going to have a better time with it.
And like, so it's like, even though like comparing it pound for pound against a game like Call of Duty, like
Mm.
it's not totally fair because they are very different games, but it's
Right.
like, I would say, like, if I take that feature of Battlefield, the online play, and I
Hmm.
compare it against other shooters where it's the
Hmm.
core feature of the game, I compare it to Call of Duty, Overwatch, Titanfall, Apex Legends, things like that. Though
Right.
all of those games are very different from one another, I can point to those games and say the online performs very well on that
Right.
game, and even if I don't like the game very much, I can at least say the game absolutely performs very well.
Well, I
So
mean, like, let's look at Warzone, for instance. Map is comparable, size-wise, server size is comparable to a degree. Um, you have like 100 people on a map, and you know, it's almost like night and day when you go from Warzone to Battlefield, where it's like, what are they doing differently? Um, when it comes to stuff like that, where could they improve? And they really need to. Um, but EA, and again, they are very different games, very different styles and everything. But when it comes to just looking around and it's sluggish, you got to increase the sensitivity. When it comes to the controls, when it comes to the mouse, all that stuff, a lot of those games, like you said, could be put onto the same control scheme, so every one of them performs exactly the same, with like some exceptions. Like for instance, okay, Halo jumping, way different than you're going to find in any other game, except for maybe Splitgate, and that's fine because that's the type of game it is. When it comes to like just simply looking around and shooting at things, every one of those games can be put into the same arena. It doesn't matter. You have a target, you have a gun, and you have a speed that you look at things and a sensitivity. And so, that's kind of what I'm saying there is if you were to tweak it a little bit, it's a little better. Don't take it out of the box.
So since you mentioned Halo, you actually sparked two hypothetical questions that I'd like
Sure.
to offer to you.
Okay.
So the new Halo that's going to be coming out, it's going to be initially launching with just multiplayer, and the story and all other game modes are going to be coming later. I believe Forge is one of the ones that are going to be coming later as well.
Hmm.
And a lot of people are very mixed about that. Um, Halo predominantly played online, but co-op campaign's a huge one as well. It's not going to be launching
Hmm.
with that. Do you think Battlefield, two-part question, do you think Battlefield would benefit from releasing as just online initially and then putting the rest in later? And a second part of that question, if they did this kind of model where they released just the multiplayer first, do
Hmm.
you think it would still perform this way, or do you think it would actually have more quality to it?
Oh, I'm going to answer both of those at once, because I think Battlefield would benefit from just getting rid of their storyline altogether.
Okay.
You have people that like, okay, let's compare it like we were saying to Halo.
Mm-hmm.
Halo has historically always been a very story-rich environment. You have characters, you have names of characters, you get to know these characters. Things happen in that game where you may even shed a tear, because something happens to a character that you like. Battlefield, now I know there's story to Battlefield. I've never once been uh like I couldn't name anyone. I mean, and maybe that's more on me than it is anyone. Maybe there are some people out there that like Battlefield storyline. I couldn't tell you what it was. Especially because they just hop all over the place. We went from just modern day to World War I to World War II to 2042. And I'm sure I missed things in there, like the whole cops and robbers battlefield
Hardline.
that I'm not even going to talk about. Yeah, Hardline. It was cops and robbers, and I just couldn't help but laugh about it. But each one of those, I'm sure they had their own storyline, and they have like the World War I and World War II storylines were really rich, but they weren't a continuing storyline. So it's kind of like one shots, like a comic book, which has a beginning and an end to the story arcs, and I'm fine with that. I don't think Battlefield would it really benefits, especially with everything going on, where it's like, oh yeah, we have to waste time on writers and this and that. That could be spent way better figuring out what's going on with their servers. Because that's why people play Battlefield. They don't play it for the story. That's like reading Playboy for the articles. You're a damn liar.
See, I think that's a very good way to put it. And as far as the quality goes, the thing that worries me is the hope and expectation would be if they released a product that was just multiplayer, well, hopefully, your one trick pony is pretty well kept up, but I have this
Hmm.
weird feeling that it wouldn't be, and they would just
Hmm.
rush it out faster, and patch it later. But the thing that interests me the most is now I don't know if a game did this before Killzone 3, but Killzone 3 on the PS3,
Hmm.
you actually had the option via PSN to you could either get the whole game for $60
Hmm.
or you could actually get just the multiplayer for a reduced price. I think it was like 35 bucks, and
Hmm.
you just got access to the multiplayer. And I was like, that's brilliant. That's a great idea. I don't
Oh
give a
yeah.
rat's ass about the story of Killzone, but I
Right.
wanted to play online with my friends. And for a
Exactly.
reduced price, I could absolutely do that.
I would love to see just a year of video games do that, because it would really kind of put into perspective how many people really want the story, how many people don't. I mean, look at Red Dead. You have the whole storyline thing you can get for $60, or you can just get the online for 5, $10.
Well,
And go ahead.
the way that I'm kind of looking at it is like, so let's go back to Call of Duty 4, right?
Right.
90% of people played Call of Duty 4 online and didn't really either ever play the story or never completed it or didn't care about it.
Hmm.
Uh, so the way that I see it as a value proposition is, let's say you buy, let's say $40 for Battlefield's multiplayer modes, right? Not too
Hmm.
bad, a reduced price. I'll take it, even if it's a little buggy here and there. That's actually not bad. It's a step in the right
Hmm.
direction, something they can fix later. And then for $15 to $20 more, you can buy the campaign. And even if the campaign is short, maybe it's not that great, if it at least has hopefully co-op, online co-op,
Hmm.
and it's, passable, seeing a story mode for a game like that for 15, $20, it all of a sudden doesn't sound like as bad a proposition when it comes to you purchasing that product.
Right. And I mean, looking at games like, for instance, the Challenger, Call of Duty, you have Warzone, you have Black Ops, and then you have Modern Warfare. Now, Warzone took on all the characters from all the franchises that are out currently, which is great. And then they have the storylines. If you ever want to know who those people are, you can find out through the storylines, through the YouTube videos, through the storylines that they wrote and all that. I think that's great. But I think if Battlefield didn't really care, because that's one of the big complaints they have right now, is you have these characters that are no longer the generic soldiers, which
Mm-hmm.
also will tell you what the Battlefield public is looking for. A lot of them complain. They're like, I just want my old generic soldier back. Like, I don't care about this person being a medic or that person being whatever. I'm going to change their loadout to whatever I want, anyways. And I don't need them to have a name.
Yeah.
They just want soldiers to go into battle and fight and whatever. And I really think that that's, Battlefield needs to do that. Like Call of Duty, they can stick with their storyline. They can have named people. They can have Judge Dredd and Rambo and all the weird add-on characters, whatever. Battlefield, stop it. I know you're an EA game. I know that you all need to figure out how to sell more crap and make more money, and I respect that because you all are a business. However, stop it. It's not going to happen.
Yeah. I
Like, yeah.
when it comes to a Battlefield story, other than Bad Company, because Bad Company and Bad Company 2 were, I would call them special exceptions because they were put into a position where having unique characters was a fun thing to do. And
Absolutely.
but in majority of their other games, I actually feel like they would benefit greatly if they wanted to do a campaign in the same style as basically Call of Duty 1 and 2 and Call of
Mhm.
Duty Big Red 1 or maybe the Medal of Honor series, where you are just Soldier Man and you are there to push forward for a larger objective in the story.
Mhm.
And another thing that those stories did, I believe Big Red 1 did it. I may be misremembering, this is years ago, but it's like bouncing between different soldiers because I mean, the locations and the objectives